Thank you, Professor Schaefer, for inviting us here. It's a great honor to come to Salt State. And I just was thinking about you as international business people. Just imagine 10 years from now, you're scattered all over the world doing wonderful things. Sounds pretty exciting. My name is Ellen Barnett. I'm a family doctor, and I worked in Sonoma County for more years than I'd like to admit. We are part, Melanie is here with me from a nonprofit foundation that we set up as part of our integrated medical clinic, which is a private freestanding clinic in Santa Rosa. We set it up as an educational foundation to look at health issues and well-being issues, and developed this workshop that we'll get to in a minute as part of that work. So I'm here more as an educator than as a family doctor. So, and we really want your ideas. It's the first time we've done this. It's last week in the other class and today at Sonoma State. So we really want feedback about it and talk about it when we finish the workshop. I invite you, before we start, to take a moment. Take a breath. One of those cleansing breaths they talk about in relaxation. And consider for a moment what matters most to you in your life. What is most important to you? And then I'd like you to make some connection between what's most important to you in your life and why you're sitting in this class. And notice how you feel in your body when you make that connection between what matters most to you and why you're taking the time to be here. And then I invite you to compare that feeling with how you felt when you walked in the door and sat in the room. And if there's any difference, I would invite you to label that as engagement. That you can be engaged in activity from the perspective of what's most important to you in your life. And that engagement is palpable. And as you go out into the world, your seniors, as you go out into the world, both personally and certainly in working with corporations or organizations that have staff, you're in meetings, the idea that how can we engage those in front of us from a perspective that really means something to them is always comes up in conversation, comes up in our work. And we'll come back to this at the end, but to use that very simple question of what matters most to you is a tool that you can carry with you and use in many, many situations. If you choose to engage the person from their perspective, not just from whatever the program is that we're presenting. Do you have a question? No? Okay. So we'll come back to that. What matters most to you? We talk about well-being, having tools for our own self-care, well-being, as we go through making decisions and choices about our life. And this workshop is going to give you one of those tools so that you can leave here with something you've imagined in your mind's eye, something you've created on a card in front of you, and we'll give you the tools to do that in a minute. A small step that you can get done in the next 24 hours to move you toward that goal, and a way to get support for that process. So that's what you'll leave with, those 4 things. And then we'll talk about how you see this, what your experience of this was when we finish the workshop. so we'll have a fun time, I think, and we'll be pretty interactive. And if anybody feels that there's something that's difficult for them about this is for you, this is at your own pace, you don't have to do anything we present, it's all a matter of doing this for yourself. And developing a tool that you can use for yourself and your own well-being, as well as tools you can carry on and use in international business situations in many different forms, both for employees as well as for the clients or customers you might work with. So, yes.
Can you move a little over here because
Oh, yes.
they might
Okay.
capture the ones
Thank
sitting
you.
over
Yes,
there.
thank you very much. So if we think about well-being and health in the broadest sense, we're thinking about emotional, physical, spiritual, community, family health. And we think about it in the very broadest sense of giving us the capacity to do what we want to do. So that's really what health is for, so we can do what matters most to us. So if you think of health in that very broad sense of giving you the capacity and the ability to do what you want to do, shout out some words that come to mind when you think about well-being and health in that broad way. What are some words that come to mind? Melanie, I need your help to help me capture these, because these guys are going to be shouting out words. I don't spell, but doesn't matter. What's a word that comes to mind? Come on, you just throw it out there.
Happiness.
Happiness. What's another one?
Joy?
Joy. Well-being, able to do what you want to do. Accomplished. Great.
Peace.
Peace.
Confidence.
Yeah.
Success?
Success. There's words that are coming to your mind, I know there are.
Love?
Love.
Giving.
All right, giving. So let's just label this as the things that we need or we want to do what we want to do what matters most. And there's many more, of course. But especially if we think about this in terms of our physical health, it's always fascinating to me what people don't shout out. Nobody shouted out blood pressure. It's not something I deal with all day. Nobody shouted out your weight. Nobody shouted out whether you had your last tetanus shot. You know, so your well-being for really going through life with what matters has to do with these things. Happiness, success, joy, accomplishment, love, confidence, peace, well-being, giving, and all the other things that occur to you. So that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about what is it that's so important to us that we want to hold on to it and keep it in our knowledge of ourselves so that we can use that as a place to make choices and decisions in our lives. So we're going to get into it then for you personally. So I invite you to wonder for a minute, using these words or other words that you occurred to you, about your own personal life for yourself. What are the things that come to your mind as important to you for your overall well-being? What's most important to you that says this is me? I'd like you to kind of get a image in your mind's eye, like a thought bubble over your head, and really create a picture up there of you in your world, in your life, with your best well-being. What are you doing? Who's in that picture? Where might you be? What's happening? Are there colors or smells or people or sounds or what's going on in that image? We call it your image of health. Health in the broadest sense of having the capacity to do what you want to do. So what's your image for you if you think of your best well-being? So create that image. And you might take some stuff out, you might put some stuff in. But really make that clear, make you in that picture. Okay. And then I'd like you to notice how you feel in your body when you're in that image, when you're participating in that space. How do you feel? Because that feeling, that emotional feeling is really what drives us forward. And so now, as we pass out the little pencils, I'd like you to capture that feeling that you have when you think of yourself in your full image of health. Capture that feeling in the little card, what we call your bubble card, as some sort of symbol, or stick figure, or word, or color, or dot on the page. Something that will bring you back to that feeling of this is me with my best health, with my best well-being, ready to go forward. Why do you want? What's in that image that says this is important to me? And how can you capture that in a symbolic way on your card? So that's your opportunity. So you can do this individually, and we'll go into what the booklet is in a second. But this is your own, what we call your image of health. So you created it in your mind's eye, and now you're finding a way to represent it on a piece of paper that will get you back to that same place. Everybody get a booklet? Who else needs a booklet or a card? Everybody?
Can I just,
Oh.
just a reminder, if you walk in front of that camera, we will have to get you to sign the form. So try not to walk in front of the camera if you come to the side, because you will be captured. So just a heads up.
Camera is on. So I invite you, as you're putting this on the card, to pick up your image of health in your mind's eye, because this is a tool that you're going to be able to use. So we're going to practice for a minute using that tool as a mental image. So bring it up in your mind's eye, and then let it go. Think about something else. Like elephant. And then bring it up again, and do that a few times so that you've started a habit of using that in your daily life for your own well-being. Because we'll talk about habits in a minute, but they're powerful tools. Anybody brave enough to share their image in their mind's eye and what they put on the card to represent it? Maybe not, but some people like to share. Nobody wants to share. We're not a sharing group. Okay. Everybody, oh, you're so drawn in. Okay, I'm gonna move on because, we'll have plenty of time to talk about this in a minute, but, so, if you have a tool, it's helpful to use the tool in some way. And so when we use a new tool for our own well-being, or we're gonna work with other people in this, it really becomes a habit of how we use this tool in our everyday life. And when we talk about using, establishing habits, we look at the research on habit formation. And there's 5 key steps in habit formation. When we start a new habit, say you're gonna use this tool. So we think about it, we plan how we're gonna use it, we start using it, we stop. We all stop a new habit. And then we start again, usually a little bit differently. So that 4th step of, people call it going off the wagon or some way losing it, is a key part of what the research shows we need to do to make a habit work, become really a habit that we don't have to think about too much. And we tend to really get down on ourselves when we stop doing something that we have started. We think we failed, or we've not been motivated enough, or we don't have enough willpower, or all those messages we give ourselves. But really, it's a key part of the practice of starting a new habit. So taking into consideration, thinking about something, planning it out, doing it, stopping, and restarting, those are all 5 key parts of a habit. So the next step in this project today is working in pairs. I want you to think of something that you can get done in the next 24 hours that will support or move you toward or help you reach this image of well-being that you've created for yourself. So I'll use myself as an example. My image is me rolling around on the floor with my grandchildren. And as my good friend says, and getting up off the floor. So that's my image of health. So to do that, I have to be strong and flexible enough to be able to get down on the floor and get up. So I have to go to the gym. So my small step might be, go buy a pair of shoes that I can work on the treadmill. Or think about, make a plan of when I might go to the gym this week. So that's a tiny little step in this bigger vision of why I want to be healthy. So what's something that you can get done in the next 24 hours that supports your image of health? So you're going to work with your partner, so come together in groups of 2, and your partner is going to be really tough. He's going to listen to what you say about your small step, and they're going to say, really? Can you get that done in the next 24 hours? Or is that a little bit too big a fight to chew off? Or is there some way to make that smaller? Because we want you to be successful. Because success is part of what builds confidence. And the smaller the step, the more opportunity you have to be successful, right? So your partner's gonna be tough and help you make that step so small that you can get it done in 24 hours. And then also think of one way that you can get support for that. Because support, positive reinforcement, pats on the back, all that stuff helps us keep habits. So how can you get support from yourself, from an app on your phone, from a family member or friend? How are you gonna get support for that small step? Okay, so break them into pairs. So some of you in this group, pair will be behind you maybe. So introduce yourself if you don't know each other. You might briefly summarize what your image is and what's on your card and what your small step is. Melanie and I are gonna roam the room and we're gonna be tough. We're gonna ask you to tell us and we're gonna help you.
Oh, yours is easy. Oh, okay, okay. So, you're ready? How are you gonna do that? So you're gonna have to talking to you. This is for me. So for me, it's just spending more time with my kids and spend more time studying. So I have to figure out a way to manage my time.
I want to interrupt you. I want you to remember the habit 5 steps. Thinking about something, planning it out is just as important as doing it. So one of your small steps might be, I'm gonna think about, eating an apple instead of a cookie tomorrow. I don't have to do anything. I can think about it or plan it out and get perfectly good credit for that in terms of making a new habit. Okay, go.
And then you guys on the same page, right? And then you just said and then you stop and then you start again. I don't know, she said that you stop some of the habits. Maybe not right there. Stop. And then you gotta restart. So for me, I have already thought of like support. My weekdays, rearrange my schedule and then use the word to do it. I probably stop now. And then I'd be like, never mind, I'm gonna fucking
I think you might not be done, but I just want to take a reading. How many of you have a small step? Raise your hand. Not all of you may, you might have to switch. So some are still working on that. How many of you have a way to get support? Not quite so many. Okay, so I want you to do something with me here. I want you to raise your, you guys have been working now, you all have your image in your mind's eye, you've created something, you've started this whole process, you're gonna get some support right now. So raise your right hand. I wanna see your right hand raised. Move it towards your left shoulder.
Oh, that's fine.
Give yourself a pat on the back. Excellent, excellent. Now, who would like to participate in this guessing game? If I had asked you to just give yourself a pat on the back, what percentage of the class would have done that? One? Uh-huh, close. What was your guess? Oh, you would have. Generally speaking, the answer is about 10 to 20% of people will, when asked, will give themselves some positive support. So I used to do that. I used to say, give yourself a pat on the back. And nobody did it. So I had to raise your right hand. And literally how hard it is to give ourselves credit for steps towards well-being. And that's a way to get support, is within yourself. So go back to that patting yourself on the shoulder. How do you feel? How do you feel when you do that? Some people might feel good. Some people might feel a little odd. You know, a little self-serving, a little I don't deserve it, all kinds of feelings like that come up. And to recognize that that's part of what happens when we're asking people to make changes of any kind. That there's a cultural hesitation sometimes to get support for ourselves. And I've listened to several of you about how you're going to get support for this small step. And you've talked about other people in your lives that you might get support for. So thinking about asking that person to give you support, can you tell me I did a good job because I ate an apple instead of a cookie? It's not a sentence we use too often. You know, it's a little odd. But if that person says, good job, Ellen, you ate that apple instead of that cookie, it actually feels pretty good, even though I asked them. So it's something to experiment with, how to get the support and what actually works for you in terms of support. I often encourage people to go to the dime store and get a square of stickers. And when you do something, put one on the calendar and just see how it feels. You know, you're back in kindergarten, you got the paper back, and the star on the top, and you feel good. So finding ways to get support is really kind of a fun, creative moment. Okay, get back to work. Everybody has to have a small step and a way to get support. The partner has to be tough. Okay, keep working.
If you just make it.
Yeah.
To do
I did
it.
For both of us, I and also I think I can get great ideas. Do my You're invited.
I just have to put it out.
So that's not
Right,
good.
right.
What if it was like-
But it's like what you want to.
Yeah, well, sometimes we can just do that. Today, probably like exactly, so that's the part that I might not be able to actually go.
Very well, with very little haranguing, so you guys did great. I'd like to walk you through one little exercise. And if you take your image of health and the small step that you're committing to doing in the next 24 hours, it comes from your own image. And notice how you feel about doing that by tomorrow. I like a lot of visceral experiences. So notice how you feel. And put that feeling on the shelf for a minute. We'll come back to it in a second. And then take something from your should list. Everybody has a should list. I should call my mother more, or I should eat more vegetables. The should list. Okay? So take something from your should list and notice how you feel in your body. And then let's compare those feelings. So go back to how you feel about the small step you're going to make from your own image of health. And shout out some words.
Excitement.
Excitement. What else?
Tired.
Tired. Okay, what else from your small step that you're gonna do? Come on, you guys are more, come on, come on, all right. Encouraged. All right, one more. You're gonna get one of those things done. Somebody's smiling. What are you feeling?
I was gonna say, fed.
Fed. All right. All right. Now, now your should list feelings. When you're feeling, how were you feeling when you took something from your should list? On
Energy.
which?
Energy.
Energy. What else?
Guilty.
Guilty. What else?
Accomplished.
Which?
Not being accomplished. Like,
Not being accomplished? What?
unaccomplished, like not, I'll think about another
Not
word.
satisfied?
Not satisfied, yeah.
Not satisfied, okay?
Frustrated.
Frustrated. Okay. The research on should lists, that is, I'm putting that label on it, but from things that we've been said that we should be doing, is that we will always sabotage it. We'll always find a way to avoid it, to make excuses for it, to say why it didn't happen, because it doesn't come from a truly authentic place. Whereas from what you did about what's most important to you, it comes from a very authentic place. And yeah, you might be tired, but you might also be excited, encouraged, fed. So using that as a kind of a comparison point can be very powerful, because it might be exactly the same activity. But when it comes from what you want and what's important to you, it comes from a different place, and you have a different feeling about it, and you're much more likely to do it than if it comes from a should list, should place. So even for yourself, as we're going through life, and you notice, I should call my mother. Well, let's just shift that. What's important to you about calling your mom, and what will that get you from what's important to you? And notice how you feel if you're going to do exactly the same action. So it's a way to reinforce the power of engaging with ourselves or with others from what matters most. Thank you. Okay, so you all have, I think, maybe not every single one has a way of getting support, but you have it internally, with the right hand over towards your left shoulder. So you all have an image of health, something on a card, something you can get done in the next 24 hours, and a way to get support. And if you open your little booklet, you can take this with you at the end, last few pages. There's, it's on page 9 and 10. There's a bunch of empty thought bubbles. And we invite you, there's a place to write down your small steps, ways to get support. And every time you do a small step, fill in a bubble. It's like a sticker from your kindergarten teacher, except it's from you. So, and then you'll see, as those bubbles fill up, you'll get positive reinforcement to yourself that you're doing your small steps and meeting your goals. And this booklet summarizes the rest of the workshop. And there's a place at the end where you can reproduce your little bubble card if you want. And there's information about our foundation at the very back. So, that concludes the workshop. Thank you very much.